Hey, we're live here in Baltimore, getting ready to go. It's
later, but let's open up
Saturday, December 15th.
Let me take a look. We don't
Full
have to
house
go.
here.
Oh, Alyssa Thomas.
Here's
Alyssa
Bruce,
Thomas.
not in profile. Wave hi to the people,
Hey
Bruce.
guys, not in profile.
There's Mason. We'll be back live with Sports Talk in the DC market here. Oh, that's Charlie. We can't show him at 7:57. We'll be back in a few minutes live on 1580 AM and online TerpTalk.com.
All right.
Studios in Baltimore, here's your host, Bruce Posner.
You know, we normally open up the show with moments of joy about what happened with the Terps last week, or moments of despair like last week after the Terps lost to soccer. But after the events of yesterday, we would be wrong not to take a few minutes and just talk about how really, just what does anything really mean? 20 children, 28 people in total, but 20 elementary school children massacred for absolutely no reason in the world. It's so horrific to think about that. When I left work yesterday, I said to myself, I've got to do something to take my mind off everything. I went to the Wizards game, and you can escape for a couple hours, Wayne, but you can't escape the insanity, the horrific nature. They're trying to make sense of just a horrible, I can't use the words. You know, we all have, you know, we don't all have kids, but we have kids or nieces or nephews and, you know, grandchildren, and you think about it, what these people are going through, their families, their brothers, their sisters, their uncles, their grandmothers, grandfathers.
Across, there are not words to express how this makes you feel. It scares your children, it terrifies you to think that, if you want to call it evil or crazy people, but this can still happen. It sounds like something that comes out of a story from thousands of years ago.
Are we at the point, and you know, I used to wonder about when you go to school and there's guards there, and you know how wrong that feeling is, but I'm beginning to think that, you know, with the money the country spends on the military and with the thousands of soldiers in reserve, you know, this is a tough task for a police force to tackle, because there's limited amount of policemen. The cities don't have the money, but the national government does. And are we at the point where we have to send soldiers?
Or retired policemen or retired armed forces. It's something to do when you're finished on the battlefield to go make sure that our children are safe.
I'm beginning to think that we're heading toward that. I know that protective state of mind exists in Israel, where you have soldiers everywhere in front of restaurants. And we have the soldiers here. We have the reserve units. You know, we could go, and I'm not getting political, but we can protect people 5,000 miles away from here. But
we can't.
But we have to
people
protect our children. We have to protect our schools. We have to allow a parent to go to work in the morning, drop his kids off at school, and not have to sit there and even think for a second about something like this.
Well, around the events of September 11th, I was scared for my children going to school. At that point, there was a police officer that came by the elementary school my kids went, just gave you enough peace of mind that if somebody drove up and wanted to commit a horrific act, at least there was a first line of defense. So I agree in some ways that we should.
I think it's coming to where we have to. I don't think that there's not a school in this country, as crazy as it sounds, where you could say it's a safe situation. And some of the schools already do have, you know, guards or whatever. More, I think some of the high schools You know, I'm not really a student of it.
In the DC metro area, there's a lot of police at the high schools.
Well, is it a deterrent? Of course it's a deterrent. It's a definite, I mean, for
There's-
somebody to commit an act like that, to have to go through the first line of defense, but I'm talking about even more so soldiers, you know, dressed in uniform, carrying weapons, you know, it's situated, you know, at the front door. I don't know what the answer is, but are we coming to the point where the kids have to walk through, you know, the metal detectors?
That is how it is in DC schools. You do have to go through a metal detector to get into school.
I don't know that that's wrong anymore, and I'm not so sure it should not drop down below high school.
Well, it's, in some cases, it's like we can't protect anybody. People got shot up going to the movies in Colorado. Somebody went to a shopping mall in Oregon. And now somebody commits a even more horrific act by going to a school in Connecticut. And I thought if we had gotten to this point, it wouldn't be Americans, it would be a terrorism situation. So to me, it's odd to just have it be crazy people who came from here with no particular motive at all, who are committing these acts in this country. But as you said, not to get too political, I'm sure there's overreaction, and when there's a day like
I don't
today-
think anymore, I don't think, you know, the way this country was affected yesterday, I don't think there is any more overreaction. I'm not so sure that if we have the resources to do it, and we have the soldiers to do it, you know, and there's not one American in the world who wouldn't, you know, pay more taxes per se to protect the kids of the nation.
I just don't want to tend towards a police state in any way. That makes me as uncomfortable as anything else.
Well, it's not a police state when you're protecting your children. It's not a police state where when you drop Mason off at school in the morning, then you for 1 second have to think about his safety. So if it's going to take having a soldier at a school, what's wrong with it?
Well, I had to go explain it to the kids, and it scared the heck out of Mason, and it scared Jordan.
Well, it
and-
scared you.
And it scared me.
It scared your wife. It scared everybody.
It's tough when it scares your kids, though. You know, you take it as an adult that bad things are going to happen, you can't control everything, but when you have to go explain it to your children,
How about these poor kids who witnessed it and survived? And I heard the one story about the little boy who took 3 kids with him and just ran until they ran out of breath, and the police picked them up, and then the parents didn't know where they were. I mean, it was, I don't know. All right, well, let's move on. But we had to take a couple minutes to talk about it, and whatever. It was big news for the University of Maryland this week when another DC assault kid, Romello Trimble, 6'2", 170, maybe a point guard, maybe a 2 guard. Delonte Hill, let's give him the ups, let's give him the credit. He, certainly was in charge of this recruitment along with Coach Turgeon, and they landed a kid, from what I understand, who once he was offered a year ago or 6 months ago was a no-brainer. And we're into 2014 with this commitment. But the things you've heard about him and the video that I've seen of him, he is special. And you think about a backcourt of him and Roddy Peters and Nick Faust in 2 years, and Seth Allen, you're just stacked.
you're stacked. To bring some energy back into it. Holy cow, we got a local player, the number 59 player in America, not at the last minute. This is a 2014 recruit. He's a junior. We're just happy to have somebody who wants to be a Terp, who's coming to play where he wants to play. He's got connections with other kids. The other name that's been mentioned in the backcourt with him is Dion Wiley, and not that we'd like to emulate a Carolina or a Duke where you start looking down the bench and you've got top 100 players, but holy cow, you look down the bench, we got top 100 players sitting on the bench.
Right. That's the name
Wow.
of the game. We got top 100 players who are coming in that don't have to be control the entire game.
No, they don't have to play from day one. You can pick the best out of your top 100 players.
No, and you can, you have competition in practice, and Turgeon, he's having trouble right now finding spots for 10 people, but they're taking care of it themselves because some of them are not playing well, and they're going to force his hand if they don't improve it. The other. We'll get back to Trumbull in a minute, but the other night, Mark Turgeon. I don't know if you watched his motions on the bench, but this was a guy who was miserable, and he didn't hold it back. And afterwards, I think we have some audio of Turge. Let's hear what he had to say after the game. I'll give Charlie a minute to cue it up. You got it? Thanks, Charles. Go ahead.
Obviously, you guys don't have to ask it. We guarded, we defended. A lot of it was us, some of it was them, held the 20%. We outplayed in the first half. They out-hustled us. They played harder. They played tougher. Probably the worst half of basketball I think one of my teams have played, maybe ever. And I was really disappointed in our team. We've worked really hard on turnovers, so don't ask the question. We worked hard on it. Really disappointed. And to me, it was more mental than anything. We just weren't mentally into the game. The second half was better. Guys played better. And, took care of business.
Turge I talked to him as he was walking back to the office. I said, Mark, these kids, I honestly believe that to judge any of these kids right now it's too early. I mean, everybody's getting down on Lehman, and he's been in school he's played, 10 games. He's adjusting to college, and, he certainly looks out of sync.
He does.
But it's a 4-year career. It's not a 1-year career.
Hey, baby, that's what America is now. 15 minutes and out. I don't even know if you get the whole 15 minutes anymore.
Well, it's not right because, you watch Shaq Clear and Mitchell and Seth Allen. Seth Allen's been looking a little shaky. But then again, Turgeon said he's been playing fantastic in practice. And I think that one of the problems is, and I don't know if they would agree, is that when you continue to play these opponents where there's virtually almost no chance of losing, and all you're doing is practicing.
Would you say that practice might be harder than some of these games?
There's no doubt. I mean, to me, it has to be harder, and I think maybe that's why practice has been better. Not that these teams aren't competitive, but the last few, Monmouth is competitive. But look at our strength of schedule rating. It says it all. You were reading, was it 300 out of 330?
It's probably worse than that. I have it 331 out of 347.
Well, that's got to affect you when you step up to the ACC, even though maybe the ACC is a giant step up these days, but...
Well, let's see, where we rank. According to Ken Pomeroy, which is a great website, kenpom.com, he has Maryland ranked 58th, right ahead of North Dakota State and trailing Wyoming. And
that's at 9-1.
That's at 9-1.
Well, now all of a sudden that loss to Kentucky is starting to hurt us because we're playing so bad.
Well, yes, they weren't. That's a tough game to go back.
I'd like to play that game. I'd like to play that game again.
We could have had that one. The thing that's different from watching Maryland, because I don't follow the other teams as close. I don't go to Carolina games or Duke games. I go to Maryland games. Is that in the past when you had Lehman come in, Lehman would have played through those troubles. You would have put him on the court for 30 minutes a night, and he would have played through it. And that's the one thing that now you notice, because there's so much competition. If you come out there and you don't have it, you sit down. And maybe that's a better way to do it, and might make you stronger faster, but time will tell on that one.
Well, Pishon, I go up and down with him, and then I read what opposing coaches have to say about him, and they are pretty positive about his game.
The coach, that was King Rice.
Yeah, King Rice, this is what he says. I'll tell you what, Pishon Howard, in today's game, kids want to score the ball. Every kid wants to shoot. I have all kinds of guys telling me they need more shots. This young man, referring to Pichon, understands what a team is about. He can score if he needs to score, you can just tell that. But the way he runs the team makes everybody a better player. And the more I watch it, it is happening. Now, I think some of the wing shooting could be affected because he's not driving and scoring. That's just a personal thought. But when your assist to turnover ratio, every game is 2-1 or better.
And 2-1 is the magic number.
Right, you are performing as we've been performing, because now we got to head out to our first break. This is Bruce Posner. You're listening to us here on 1580 AM radio, gov.biz.net, I think is what it's called, on 1580. And we shall be back in a few minutes here on Kelly and Associates Insurance Group TerpTalk.